I just moved the court reporter to a panelist. Can you hear us, Ms. McFarland?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I have myself muted, and I'll just temporarily unmute if I can't hear somebody, but otherwise I muted myself. Is that okay with you guys?
Yep, that sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
All right, well, it is, let's see, it's 9:04 on December 9th, 2020. And this is a meeting of the Oil Conservation Commission. I'm Adrienne Sandoval. I'm chair of the Oil Conservation Commission and director of the Oil Conservation Division. Will the other commissioners please introduce themselves for the record?
Good morning, this is Courtney Kessler. I'm the Assistant Commissioner of Mineral Resources, and I'm the designee of State Land Commissioner Stephanie Garcia-Richard.
Good morning, this is Tom Engler. I am designee from the Energy, Minerals, and Natural Resources Department.
Also with us today, we have counselors Chris Melander and Sally Malave, as well as Florine Davidson, who is commission clerk. On today's agenda, we have first item number 2, approval of the agenda. Before we do that, I want to note that agenda item number 5, case number 15855, the status conference between Delaware Energy and Alpha was continued to a later date and will not be heard today. Items number 6, 7, and 8, case number 21473, case number 21474, and case number 21475 were also continued to a later date and will not be heard today. We will, however, be hearing agenda item number 9, which is case number 21476. So with those modifications, is there a motion to approve the agenda, the modified agenda?
Agenda.
Sorry, but I'm getting really bad sound from Ms. Kessler right from the get-go. I thought it might improve, but it's actually getting worse. It's very, very echoed, and I can't hear you.
Are others having that issue with my sound?
It's a little fuzzy.
Well, it's a lot fuzzy for the purpose of a record. You guys may know what she's saying. I don't. So for the record, it's not going to work. If I get just an echo, maybe you could back up a little bit. You might be too close to your mic. That's worse.
Okay.
Okay. All right, let's try again. Is there a motion to approve the modified agenda?
Let me do it. This is Tom Engler. I motion to approve the modified agenda.
Is there a second? It is hard. To hear. It kind of was very echoed and back and forth.
I have a suggestion. If maybe Ms. Kessler takes her video off, mutes the video part. Sometimes the less video we have, the better sound we get. So that's why I never have my video on. So she's
going to try calling in and using the phone for the audio.
That usually works a lot better.
So let's give her a moment. No.
I swear that there's cons in this because sometimes it works perfectly and other times just.
Now I'm muted. Jordan, are you on yet? I unmuted the call-in users. Not yet.
No, I'm not yet. I'm done.
And while she's calling in, could you repeat again who she is the commissioner for? Because that was very muffled for me.
She's the designee for the state land office.
Thank you.
I just unmuted another call-in user. Is that you, Jordan?
Yeah, that's me. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, that sounds a lot better. I'm going to keep you unmuted because I can't make a call-in user a panelist, so I'll just keep you unmuted. So if you just want to mute and unmute your phone.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Let's try this again. Is there a motion to adopt the modified agenda?
I moved, it's Tom Engler, I move to adopt the modified agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Moander, would you do a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Chair Sandoval,
I approve.
Member Engler,
Approved.
and Member Kessler.
Approved.
The vote is unanimous and the motion is passed.
Thank you. All right, next on the agenda is approval of the November 4th minutes. Have the commissioners reviewed the minutes and are there any corrections?
This is Tom Engler, I have no corrections.
I've reviewed the minutes and I have no corrections either.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the November 4th, 2020 minutes?
This is Tom Engler, I so move.
Second.
Mr. Moander, would you please do a roll call vote?
Yes. Chair Sandoval,
Approve.
Member Engler,
Approved.
and Member Kessler.
Approved.
The motion is approved and passed unanimously.
Thank you. All All right, moving on to agenda item number 4. Approval of the scheduling order in case number 21528. Application of the New Mexico Oil Conservation Division to consider proposed rules to regulate the venting and flaring of natural gas from oil and natural gas production and gathering facilities. Before we do an approval of this, I would like to just open it up to the parties who have entered appearances on this and see if they have any brief statements regarding the scheduling order. I will start with the Oil Conservation Division. Mr. Ames, do you have any statements regarding the scheduling order?
Madam Chair, members of the Commission, good morning. My name is Eric Ames, Counsel with Office of General Counsel, Energy and Minerals, and Natural Resources Department on behalf of OCD. The scheduling order reflects OCD's understanding of the agreement reached between the parties following the Commission's last meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ames. Mr. Feldowert, do you have anything to say on the scheduling order?
Madam Chairman.
I'm sorry, I'm not getting anything.
Association.
You're really delayed, Mr. Feldowert.
Yeah.
You may want to turn your video off and try again.
Can you hear me better now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, that's better.
I apologize. I have, on behalf of the New Mexico Oil and Gas Association, I don't have any. I think we can all see from just the format of what's happening today. I think a 2-week hearing like this is going to be a challenge, but we'll give it a shot.
Thank you, Mr. Feldowert. Ms. Fox, do you have any statements regarding the scheduling order?
No, I don't. And I'd like to thank council and council for the commission for working through some issues we initially had with the original amended order. We really appreciate everybody's efforts in that regard to get to a procedural order we all agree with.
Thank you, Ms. Fox. Commissioners, have you reviewed the order and do you have any questions, changes, etc. on it?
No, this is Tom Engler. I've reviewed the order. I have no questions.
Commission Chair, I have also reviewed the order and believe that it accurately reflects what we've discussed on our hearing.
Okay. Is there a motion to adopt the scheduling order?
This is Tom Engler. I move to adopt the scheduling order.
Is there a second?
I would second.
Mr. Moanger, would you please do a roll call vote?
Yes. Chair Sandoval
Approved.
and Member Engler
Approved.
and Member Kessler.
Approved.
Motion passes unanimously.
Madam Chair, this is Michael Feldowert for Namoga. I have one, I guess, question. I just saw that in the file, there is an amended procedural order that was issued on November 19th. Is that what we're talking about today?
This is Chris Moander, counsel. I had this question asked by another party, and yes, that is correct.
Okay,
So
great.
it's the amended, the last version that everybody saw.
And I believe it's the file as R21540-A.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
I believe it's also, I just pulled it up and it's posted on OCD's website under the Outreach and Public Engagement tab. All right,
Madam Chair. Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'm sorry. You know, I might just note to you all, you probably know this, but the email address for Ms. Davidson, 2 email addresses are given, and her personal email address works. But when I filed another entry of appearance this week, the OCC email still did not work. So I just like to note that because it is in the procedural order, I'm worried that people are going to be using that email address to submit public comment and, and maybe only using that one and not the personal email. And so maybe, I think it would be good if that were a working email. That's
Okay,
all.
we can look into that. I don't think we were aware that there were issues with that email. Thank you for bringing that up.
Madam Chair, I filed a pleading this week and got a bounce back on that email address, as I have previously when I filed pleadings.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Madam Chair, may I ask Ms. Fox to clarify which address she was sending email to for the OCC?
Both the addresses that are in the procedural order, florine.davidson@statenm.us, that works, and occ.hearings@statenm.us. And I had a discussion with Ms. Davidson about this before my first filing of an entry of appearance, and she had noted that that occ.hearings email address may not work, and it still has not.
Okay, we can check in with that on IT. I don't think I was aware of that at least, so we will make sure to get that working. Thank you for bringing that up.
Ms. Sandoval, I want to
Yes.
clarify one thing. The legal notice uses Ms. Davidson's state email address throughout. So I believe the legal notice is fine. I think the scheduling order may need to be adjusted.
Mr. Melander, what would be the process since we just approved that?
I suppose there could be a delegation to you to sign off on a second amended version. In this instance, I think that would be acceptable since this is going to be a scrivener's issue rather than a substantive change, unless someone disagrees with that. I mean, I'd be willing to hear a counter position. So in that instance, I mean, we could do that. Otherwise, we end up having to go back through this again and botching the hearing, which I absolutely want to avoid almost at any cost to be able to get this done. So I think that's acceptable if the commission will designate to you the ability to approve the order modified to or delete or remove any reference to the OCC hearings order, or remove that reference within the order. I think that should be sound.
We have another email address as well. It's OCD hearings, and I know that one's currently working. So it may be we either one need to get the OCC working, 2 just delete it out of there, or 3 put the reference to OCD hearings. Because what I'd like to avoid is the state inboxes have very little space in them, and I'm afraid that Ms. Davidson's inbox is going to explode. potentially with all of the public comments. So we were trying to get them into a place that won't have problems.
Okay, so just to clarify, the commission would want to substitute, or I guess it'd be Chair Sandoval, you want to substitute ocd.hearings@nm or state.nm.us for occ.hearings@state.nm.us.
I would prefer to try to get it working and not have to amend the scheduling order. Is there a way to delegate, I guess, me authority to just make either one of those changes, either or maybe either no change at all, we get it working, or to delete it or modify it? Can we make it that broad so that we can make that change?
The issue here is the hearing date. We've got that set, and we're sort of under 30. Well, I think we're under the 30 days here. So since it's not substantive, what I wouldn't advise is to let this linger, and the concern would be if there's going to be a bunch of IT efforts to try to get this inbox open or working. How long is that going to take versus either deletion or inserting a known workable email address? I think that's the issue. And if there's a timing matter, it would seem to be more prudent to just do a substitution or a deletion.
Okay, that's fine. Let's just do either a substitution or deletion.
Okay, so the issue then is that.
Stop.
Oh, who's that, Sally?
Yes, I was going to say there really isn't any need for additional discussion at this point. You're going to allow Commissioner Kessler delegate the authority to make modifications that are necessary to ensure that the public has the ability to file pleadings, whether it's Florine's or any other email. I would note that the public notice says Florine Davidson's email only, and so at this point in time, I would say stick with that and possibly have IT deal with moving things, as monitoring that email for purposes of ensuring that there's space.
Okay.
So shall I make a motion authorizing Director Sandoval to make the appropriate changes as discussed to modify the order to correct or eliminate as appropriate the email address?
This is Tom Engler. I second Commissioner Kessler's motion.
Mr. Moander, would you do a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Chair Sandoval?
Approved.
Member Engler?
Approved.
And Member Kessler?
Approved.
The motion to grant the chair authority to make necessary modifications to the scheduling order so the public can comment as well as pleadings can be properly filed is passed unanimously. Just so for a sake of clarity on this, I will get on this as soon as the hearing's over so we can get this tidied up. So we'll get this done today.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we're now moving on to what was agenda item number 9, case number 21476. As was stated earlier, agenda items number 5, 6, 7, and 8 were continued to a later date. Case number 21476 is the application of Salt Creek Midstream LLC to amend order number R-20931-C. Ms. Hardy,
Director, this is Jordan Kessler, the designee from the State Land Office. I'd just like to say up front that I'll be recusing myself from any decision-making on this case based on a prior conflict while I was in private practice.
Thank you, Commissioner Kessler. Dr. Engler and I still represent a quorum, and so we can move forward on this matter. Ms. Hardy, are you on?
Yes, I'm here, Madam Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes. Would you like to make a brief opening statement in this case?
Yes, and I will be brief. On August 5th, 2019, Salt Creek filed an application seeking authority to inject treated acid gas into the proposed Salt Creek Midstream AGI number 1 well. The target injection zone for the well is in the Bell and Cherry Canyon formations of the Delaware Mountain Group. Salt Creek, the Oil Conservation Division, and the State Land Office negotiated a set of permit conditions that, among other things, required Salt Creek to complete a second well in the Devonian Formation. The Commission heard Salt Creek's application on December 11th, 2019, and considered extensive evidence submitted by Salt Creek. The Commission issued an order granting the application on January 16th of 2020. The order required, among other things, that Salt Creek submit a C-108 for the Devonian well within 6 months, and provided that Salt Creek's authorization to inject into the Delaware Mountain Group well would expire if that did not occur. Although it's common for injection permits to allow an operator 2 years to commence an injection and for extensions to be granted administratively, this order did not contain that language. Really, at the time, no one was expecting a disruption in the market that occurred in early 2020. Salt Creek did not commence drilling the DMG well, the Delaware Mountain Group well, or submit a C-108 for the Devonian well due to that disruption that occurred in early 2020. At this time, Salt Creek does wish to proceed and seeks an order reinstating its authority to commence injection into the Delaware Mountain Group well and requiring Salt Creek to commence that injection within 2 years of issuance of a new order, and also providing that Salt Creek is required to submit a C-108 for its Devonian well within 6 months after it spuds the Delaware Mountain Group well. We've provided a proposed order as Exhibit A to our application, and the form of that order has been approved by counsel for the Oil Conservation Division and also the State Land Office. So we would request that Salt Creek's application be granted, so it will protect public health and the environment, protect correlative rights, and prevent waste. Thank you. I do have 2 witnesses, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Ames, would the division like to make any opening statements?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, members of the Commission, Eric Ames for OCD. OCD has stipulated to the draft order proposed by Salt Creek. As Ms. Hardy has stated, we do have a witness, Mr. Getz, if necessary, but we do not intend to present any testimony unless called upon to do so. We have, as I said, stipulated the order and have no objection to the Commission entering the amended order. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Biernoff, would you like to make any statements on behalf of the Land Office?
Thank you, Director and Commissioners. This is Ari Biernoff on behalf of Commissioner Stephanie Garcia-Richard and the New Mexico State Land Office. And as Mr. Ames said, with respect to the Oil Conservation Division, the State Land Office also has stipulated to the form of order that the applicant is presenting and does not object to the issuance of the order.
Thank you. Ms. Hardy, would you like to call your first witness?
Yes, Madam Chair. Our first witness is Michael Mason, and I believe he is one of the call-in users.
Okay. Give me a second. I will. I have unmuted the call-in users. Mr. Mason, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, great. Would the court reporter please administer the oath? Ms. McFarland?
Yes, I'm sorry. I didn't unmute myself. I beg your pardon. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Mr. Mason, can you please state your full name?
Michael Stephen Mason
Where do you reside?
in Brenham, Texas.
By whom are you employed and in what position?
Salt Creek as a project director.
Can you please briefly summarize your educational and professional background?
Yes, I have a chemical engineering degree from the University of Texas at Austin and have about 25 years of combined experience in oil, gas, and petrochemical field.
Are you familiar with Salt Creek's application in this case?
Yes.
Can you please identify the document in front of you that's marked as Salt Creek Exhibit Number 1?
Yes, it's Commission Order R-20913-C for case 2780.
Is this a true and correct copy of the order?
Yes, it is.
Are you generally familiar with the requirements of the order?
Yes, I am.
What did the order require with respect to timing?
That we would issue a C-108 for the Devonian well within 6 months of the issuance of the DMG permit.
And has Salt Creek submitted a C-108 for the Devonian well?
No.
And why not?
The industry market downturn early in 2020 kind of put some plans in more of an uncertain mode, and we had to reevaluate what that program would look like throughout 2020.
Is it your understanding that Salt Creek still intends to submit a C-108 for the Devonian well?
Yes, it is.
Can you please identify the document in front of you that's marked as Salt Creek Exhibit Number 2?
Yes, that is Salt Creek's application for this case, as well as a proposed order.
Is the exhibit a true and correct copy of the application and proposed order?
Yes, it is.
And have you reviewed those documents?
Yes, I have.
Can you please summarize Salt Creek's request in this case?
Yes, one, to reinstate Salt Creek's authorizations, commence injection of the treated acid gas into that first DMG well. And two, to require Salt Creek to commence injection into that well within 2 years of the permit or the new order. And three, to require Salt Creek to submit the C-108 for the Devonian well within 6 months of spudding that first DMG well.
Does Salt Creek propose that the remaining conditions set out in order number R-20913 would remain in effect?
Yes.
And is it your understanding that the proposed order is agreeable to the Oil Conservation Division and the State Land Office?
Yes.
Is it your opinion that granting Salt Creek's request will prevent waste, protect correlative rights, and protect human health and the environment?
Yes, for all the reasons explained at the hearing in December of 2019.
Madam Chair, I have no further questions for Mr. Mason. I would move the admission of Salt Creek Exhibits Number 1 and 2.
Are there any objections from the other parties regarding entering the exhibits?
No objection, Madam Chair.
Okay, exhibits number 1 and 2, or sorry, commissioners, are there any objections to entering it into the record?
This is Tom Engler. There's no objections. Are we supposed to approve Mr. Mason as an expert too?
Well, I actually hadn't moved to qualify him as an expert since he's a company representative, but
Fine.
Okay. Salt Creek exhibits number 1 and 2 are now entered into the record. Mr. Ames, do you have any questions for the witness?
I do not, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Mr. Beardoff, do you have any questions?
I do not, Director. Thank you.
Dr. Engler?
Yes, I have a couple clarifications. Mr. Mason, do you have a rough idea when you think you will spud this well?
No, sir, no firm timeline for the spud of this well at this time.
In the Exhibit 2, under 10 and 11, you know, it said that you did your due diligence to try to get a rig, and of course, that with the pandemic, I understand the issues. I guess with the fact that you so desire to still want this acid gas injection well, and the fact that I think drilling rigs are becoming available, I was hoping and thinking that maybe you had some timeline that you would do this. So are you looking at 2021 as a possible time frame to drill the DMG well?
Yes, sir. 2021 is certainly a possible time frame for this well.
Why do you want 2 years for this? One of your requests is 2 years after commencing tag. Why the 2 years for from the new order?
Well, the 2 years would be to, I believe, to place the well or to complete the well, and so roughly a 6-month overall execution period. That would certainly bring the spud up. Mm-hmm. But the 2 years was just believed to be a time period of which we could reevaluate this plan, remobilize the project, and not have to revisit this timeline again.
You're also requesting the C-108 for Devonian after the spudding of the DMG well. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
So again, the previous order was after the issuance of the permit. So again, that's a slight change or modification in the request. Again, I would like to know why.
Well, the belief is this new proposed timeline would give us time to put together a plan and execute for the DMG well, as well as do in parallel, do the subsurface work, the due diligence for the Devonian well, and have that application ready to go once we have the first well, the DMG well underway.
Thank you. I have no further questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So, you know, I think I am curious about the timeline too. You know, you state in 10 that a rig was not available to spud the well until early March, and the ability to complete and spud the well was delayed due to issues related to COVID-19 and associated disruption of the oil and gas market. I mean, it seems to me as if we're more talking about market conditions here. Is that correct?
Yes, it was both. In mid-March, the Salt Creek offices were closed down. Certainly the oil and gas market downturn prior to COVID was the first and possibly larger of the two, but the COVID impact that came by mid-March was certainly a very much a compounding effect as well.
Okay. But you can't provide any sort of estimation here.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the better question here is the timeline going forward more related to COVID or more related to your market issues?
Well, certainly the market is the direct source of the issue. The COVID compounds that because it further deteriorates the market as well as makes, certain plans such as travel, et cetera, more uncertain, all things that are required to execute this project. So the market is certainly the larger issue and was the first issue, but it is compounded in its effect by the COVID.
And with the market recovering some lately, oil prices are now about $45. We now have, I believe, 59 rigs running. Rig counts have been creeping up every day. You don't think that you could do things more quickly now?
It is very possible that this well could see an execution in 2021 and perhaps the earlier part of 2021. That is certainly a possibility.
All right. I don't have any further questions. Ms. Hardy, do you have any rebuttal questions for the witness?
I don't, Madam Chair.
All right, would you like to call your next witness?
Yes, Madam Chair, our next witness is Mr. Alberto Gutierrez. And I believe he's on.
Yes, I am.
Do you want me to swear the witness?
I was muted. Yes, please.
Mr. Gutierrez, do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Can you please state your full name for the record?
Alberto A. Gutierrez,
Where do you reside?
Albuquerque, New Mexico.
What is the name of your company?
Geolex Inc.
In what capacity do you serve?
I am a geologist and I am the president of Geolex.
Can you please summarize your educational and professional background?
I have a bachelor's and master's degree in geomorphology, and then a bachelor's in geomorphology, master's in geology from 1977 and 1980 respectively. And I've been in the oil and gas, the petroleum geology and hydrogeology and environmental fields practicing since about 1975.
And did you testify at the hearing in case 20780?
I did.
And were you qualified as an expert in petroleum geology and hydrogeology?
I was.
Commissioners, I tender Mr. Gutierrez as an expert in petroleum geology and hydrogeology.
Do you have any questions, Dr. Engler?
No objections.
The witness is tendered as an expert in his field.
Thank you. Mr. Gutierrez, did you prepare Salt Creek C108 application for the Salt Creek AGI number 1 well that the commission approved in case 20780?
Yes, I prepared it or directly oversaw the preparation of parts of it.
Have any of the geology, hydrogeology, or engineering matters that you addressed at the hearing in that case changed?
No.
Is it still your opinion that the well will protect correlative rights, prevent waste, and protect human health and the environment?
Yes.
Are you familiar with the requirements of the order that the commission issued in case 20780?
Yes, I am.
Has Salt Creek submitted a C108 for the Devonian well?
They have not yet, to my understanding.
And what's your understanding of the reason?
As the previous witness described the market disruption, both in the oil and gas field, compounded by the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, basically put their plans on hold for the well and the associated compression facilities.
And is it your understanding that Salt Creek still intends to submit a C-108 for the Devonian well?
Yes, that is my understanding.
Have you reviewed Salt Creek's application in this case along with the proposed order?
I have.
Has any party objected to the application or proposed order?
No, the division and the state land office have agreed to the proposed order.
Did you provide notice of Salt Creek's application and the hearing in this case to the affected parties?
We did. In fact, we provided notice originally on the 29th of October and then subsequently on the 13th of November because of the change in the hearing date.
And have you provided in Exhibit 3 the hearing notice letters and return receipts or delivery confirmations?
I have.
Was notice also published?
The notice was published as routinely is done by the commission for the hearing, yes.
Is it your opinion that granting Salt Creek's request will prevent waste, protect correlative rights, and protect human health and the environment?
Yes, that is my opinion. That was my opinion back in December, and it remains the same.
Madam Chair, I have no further questions for Mr. Gutierrez. I would move the admission of Salt Creek Exhibit number 3 and ask if the commission could take administrative notice of Salt Creek's testimony and exhibits in case number 20780.
Are there any objections from the parties regarding the exhibits?
No objection, Madam Chair.
No objections from the State Land Office.
Dr. Engler?
No objections.
Okay, the exhibits are entered into the record. Mr. Ames, do you have any questions for the witness?
No, Madam Chair, thank you.
Mr. Biernoff, do you have any questions for the witness?
I do not, Director. Thank you.
Dr. Engler?
Madam Chair, I do not have any questions.
Thank you. I do not as well. Thank you, Mr. Gutierrez.
And Chair, just I wish to interject here. It sounded to me like Ms. Hardy moved for 2 independent pieces as well. She moved to admit 1 exhibit, and then secondly, to take judicial notice of, I believe it was the testimony. And Ms. Hardy, please correct me on this. I want to make sure we get this clean. The testimony, and it was the exhibits from the prior hearing that you sought to have judicially noticed by the commission?
Yes, it was. Thank you.
Okay, so I would suggest that the exhibit 3s had been admitted, and then the commission state whether or not it's going to take judicial notice of the prior hearing testimony and exhibits concerning the original application by Salt Creek.
Thank you, Mr. Melanger. That's a good clarification. Are there any objections, Dr. Engler?
No, I have no objections to that.
None from me either. So we will enter into the record the exhibits and testimony from the previous hearing. All right. Ms. Hardy, do you have any other witnesses?
No, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Ames, I believe you stated you have 1 witness.
Yes, Madam Chair, we have Mr. Getz is here. I do not intend to call him unless the commission would like to ask him questions.
I actually would like to hear from Mr. Getz.
Okay, that's fine. OCD calls Mr. Philip Getz.
Good morning.
Ms. McFarland, would you please administer the oath?
Mr. Getz, do you solemnly swear under penalty of law the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Good morning, Phil. Could you please state your name for the record?
My name is Philip Getz.
And where do you work, Mr. Getz?
I work at the Oil Conservation Division and part of the UIC group and an acting manager, UIC manager.
Did you previously testify regarding Salt Creek's application, or did you previously testify regarding its original application?
I did.
And at the time, did the OCD reach an agreement with Salt Creek regarding the timeline for drilling the DMG well and applying for and constructing the Devonian well?
Yes, there was an agreement.
And subsequently, did OCD learn that Salt Creek had not spud the well as it intended originally in February of this year?
Correct.
And did Salt Creek approach OCD and request its concurrence in some amendments to the original order?
This is also correct.
And are those, did OCD reach an agreement with Salt Creek Midstream and the State Land Office regarding the terms and conditions of an amended order?
This is also correct.
And finally, my final leading question, is that agreement codified in the proposed order attached to Salt Creek Midstream's application pending before the today?
It is the same content that we agreed on.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Ames. Ms. Hardy, do you have any questions for the witness?
I do not, Madam Chair.
Mr. Biernoff, do you have any questions for Mr. Getz?
I don't either. Thank you.
Dr. Engler?
Oh, yeah, since Phil's here, I got to ask him some questions.
Great.
Well, I guess I'm going to go refer back to, again, the amendments, and there's some subtle changes. I guess I just like to hear from you a little bit. One of the changes about the C-108 for the Devonian well says 6 months after spudding the DMG well. Before it was the issuance of the well permit. And I know you just stated for the record you reviewed and approved these, but I guess I'd like to hear a little more about that change from you.
Well, at this point, the issue of extensions for all our wells, as well as something like this, which appears before commission, is a big challenge that we're trying to resolve at this point. We try to respond to the operator's concerns to their economics as far as what they can put forward. We, in the original order, typically we do put a time limit on all our UIC permits with regards to commencing injection. Unfortunately, that created a void or an opportunity for not knowing under the original order how things were going to come about, and of course then the impact of the current market. We had to balance out with the request that this was a well that was needed, and we assumed that Salt Creek was going to push forward with the DMG well, knowing that it had an obligation for the Devonian well. And going back and forth with legal and talking with the State Land Office, what we came up with in this is not unusual. We have the 2-year option in the sense that getting that well, the DMG well online has been pretty much what we're seeing in our other disposal applications and getting wells online. And the fact that the C-108 be submitted with the spudding of the well was the agreement we came up with regards to getting that in motion.
Yeah, so I guess as the UIC manager, as you stated, yeah, I guess what you said, and I want to make sure I got that right. This is not unusual terms under things that you have seen in the current year past. Is that?
That is correct.
That's helpful. Thank you. Good to see you.
Well, nice to
No
see
more
you.
questions.
I just have, I think, a couple quick questions. So again, kind of looking at number 5 on exhibit 3, I believe, on the time period, why wouldn't it just, or would there be an advantage of keeping it at, instead of giving them 6 months after the DMG well is spud, to keep it at, they need to submit the C-108 when the well is spud, the DMG well is spud?
Well, this is something that, again, we, in our original negotiations, had wanted a smaller time span. And to that end, the operator requested a larger time span. So this is the compromise we came up with. So it would be beneficial. We'd always like to see things done a little bit more proactive, and certainly it would show a commitment.
So what would your ideal timing be then? What was the original proposal, maybe from the OCD?
Well, that's hard to, I think we were almost to the point of having the Devonian well online as opposed to having a C-108 submitted. And to that end, since again, we're playing this futuristic assessment of what's going to be there, this is what we felt would get us closer to having a C-108 approved and a well spud in a close time because of the obligation to have the other one be a secondary well.
Okay. Do you think that there are or could be safety concerns with delaying the Devonian well, any period of time after having that DMG well online? Could there be potential safety issues associated with just having that one well?
I don't think there'll be safety issues. We do have the history of what happened with the Monument facility and the Targa well there, that once that went offline, the impact downstream as far as flaring and venting was very dynamic. And it's one of those things where the impact of having a well that's offline sends a big ripple effect down the production.
So is it safe to say that the less gap between when the DMG well goes online and when the Devonian goes online is better?
Well, it would be beneficial for all parties concerned, especially since we have worked hard to put the DMG as a secondary well and not the primary well. But to the safety side of it, I don't think it is a concern that much, whether it's a Devonian or DMG well. What we're looking at is to take the push and put it deeper and have that secondary well in place.
Okay. That was helpful. Thank you, Mr. Gatz. Mr. Ames, do you have any rebuttal questions for the witness?
No, I don't. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Biernoff, and thank you, Mr. Getz.
Thank you.
Mr. Biernoff, do you have any witnesses?
I do not, Director. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I believe Ms. Hardy should be given the opportunity to ask Mr. Getz questions as well.
Oh, sorry. Ms. Hardy, do you have any questions for Mr. Getz?
I don't, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ames. All right, Ms. Hardy, would you like to make any brief closing statements on this matter?
No, Madam Chair, I would just reiterate Salt Creek's request and ask that the application be granted. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ames, do you have any closing statements?
I just, thank you, Madam Chair. Just would like to make a brief comment. OCD believes that the proposed order is an improvement over the original in a couple of respects. First, the original order did not clearly specify the date by which Salt Creek must start drilling the well or commence injection to the well. The proposed order does put a 2-year time frame on that. And so that's an improvement. So this won't be a permit that simply will extend Salt Creek's authority to inject well into the future without having drilled a well. And then secondly, the proposed order ties the Devonian well process to the spud sundry for the DMG well. And we think that's an improvement over the original language, which tied it to the issuance of the DMG permit. We think that the spud sundry is a direct connect to events on the ground as opposed to administrative process. So I think Mr. Getz testified that OCD concurs in the order. He testified that while there are always concerns with AGI wells, that he doesn't have any specific concerns regarding the gap in time between the DMG and Devonian wells as contemplated by the proposed order. And therefore OCD stands on its previous statement that it stipulates to this order and recommends to the commission that it be adopted. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ames. Mr. Biernoff, do you have any closing statements?
Thank you, Director. Nothing beyond what I mentioned in opening, which is that the State Land Office had agreed to this form of order and does not oppose the application.
Thank you. With that, the record of this application is now closed. The commission will immediately deliberate so as to reach a final decision on the application. I move that the meeting be closed pursuant to the Administrative Adjudicatory Deliberations exception to the Open Meetings Act, Section 10-15-1H3, to deliberate on this case. Is there a second?
Yeah, this is Tom Engler. It's a second.
Mr. Moander, would you please do a roll call vote?
Chair Sandoval?
Approved.
And Member Engler?
Approved.
The motion to enter into deliberative session is passed unanimously.
Thank you. This commission will now close the session, and the record, the public may remain on this WebEx line during the closed session and wait for the commission to reconvene. Dr. Engler and council, you will see a second line for us to join that I just sent out so we can start our deliberations. So we will go into deliberations at 10:08 and leave this line open. So please just hang on the line and mute yourself.
Do you need a roll call vote?
I think she did. We did that, right? Or,
Did you? I'm sorry. Okay, thank you.
no problem, thank you. All right, we will be back after the deliberations. Please just mute your lines. Thank you. Hello, everyone. We are back. I'll let everybody have a moment to get on here. Mr. Ames and Mr. Baronoff, are you on?
I am here. Thank you.
I'm here as well.
Okay. All right. All right, it is 10:33. The commission meeting and the record are now open. The discussion during the closed session was limited to case number 21476. Dr. Engler, is there a motion in this case?
Yes, Madam Chair. I would like to present to amend order R2913-C. As the form of the order is presented, we have just one change under 1D. We would strike out the sentence "no later than 6 months after Salt Creek submits the spud sundry." We were replacing that with the terms of that Salt Creek and file at the same time a C-108 with the OCD. So the reading or language, let me clarify for D, will be Salt Creek will file a sundry with OCD when it spuds the DMG well and file at the same time the C-108 with OCD for approval. That is the only change that we are recommending. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Engler. I would second that because I think it is important. So the OCD statutory authority is to prevent waste. And I think the less amount of time that we have between the DMG well going into operation and then the Devonian redundant well going into operation, the better. I think as Mr. Getz testified, when there's only one of those wells in operation, if one of them were to go down, it can create a ripple effect throughout that gathering system, causing a lot of the operators on that kind of gathering chain to have to vent and or flare that gas. And so the shorter amount of time between getting the DMG well operating and the Devonian operating, I think, is imperative. So I second the motion, Dr. Engler. Mr. Melander, would you do a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Chair Sandoval,
I approve with the modifications.
and Member Engler.
I approve.
The motion is passed unanimously.
Ms. Hardy, would you please draft a modified order?
Yes, Madam Chair.
And circulate with the commission clerk at least 10 days prior to our next hearing, which is well, I think the question, maybe Dr. Engler and Mr. Molander. So we have the hearing on the 30th, which was the special hearing set for the waste rule motions. And then we have our waste rule running the 4th through the 15th. I don't think we're planning to have a regularly set OCC hearing in January. That kind of gets eaten up. So the next time would be February. Unless we wanted to hear that either on the 30th or at the waste roll hearing, which doesn't seem appropriate.
Commissioner Sandoval, this is Sally Malave. I would also suggest that the commission can delegate to you the authority to sign the final order, because you have in front of you essentially the form of order with that one change. So I think that you can look at that and approve it and sign off on it without further action by the commission. If you're delegated that authority.
Dr. Engler, would you be open to that?
Yeah, if I need to move that, I would move that. I give you the authority to sign off, Madam Chair, Director Sandoval.
Okay, I second that motion. Mr. Melander, would you do a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Director Sandoval
Approve.
and Member Engler.
I approve.
The motion passes unanimously to delegate authority to the chair to approve and sign off on the revised order in this matter.
Thank you. So, Ms. Hardy, if you could just circulate that with Commission Clerk at your earliest convenience.
I will do that, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We can move on to the next item on the docket, which is agenda item number 10, pending litigation. Mr. Melander, do you have any updates for the commission?
Just very briefly, there's the Novo Oil de novo appeal in district court. The record proper will be submitted by OCD by the middle of next week, which will begin proceedings. And then we have the marker appeal. The appellate brief was filed on December 12th. Our response is due on January 18th of 21, and we anticipate getting all that done on time. Other than that, I have nothing additional to report.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, can I interrupt a minute on the first one was which one? The Novo? Do you know which one was that?
It's a Novo. Novo Oil has a district court, a Rule 74 appeal.
Is that the one?
Appealed the case that we heard a couple months ago.
Right. That's what I was wondering, if that's the case that we heard. Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
They appealed our decision
to district court.
And just for purposes of correction, this is Sally Malave. I would say Mr. Melander said that the marker appeal was filed on December 12th. It's actually December 2nd.
Oh, sorry. I misread my own notes. It is December 2nd.
Thank you. I guess the 20th hasn't happened yet.
I'm very good at. Not really.
Is there any other business in front of the commission today? All right, our next meeting is a special meeting on December 30th. Just a reminder that meeting is at 8 a.m. It's not our usually scheduled 9 a.m. And that will be from 8 a.m. until noon. And with that, it is 10:41 and we will adjourn this meeting. Thank you, everybody.
Have a good holidays.
Take care.
Everyone have a good holiday. It was nice to see you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Yes, everyone.